it's quite a posh town, St
It's
Andrews.
very
Were you
posh.
quite posh?
Well, I mean, it's definitely like got a spectrum community in St Andrews.
Sure.
I was academic families because my dad was a physicist. So my mum and dad were English, and they moved up just before. I was going to say I was born, but I was acquired because I was adopted. But yeah,
I know. I think your story is so interesting.
It's quite a journey for sure.
It really is.
But dad was a physics lecturer, and so I found academia was almost a bit like a religion, where really it was sort of very hermetically sealed, and it was all just academic people hanging out with each other. And
for sure,
you know,
the I've ever come across as well is academics. Like they're more competitive than teenage stand-up comedians. They are unbelievable. They've always got a bad word to say about somebody else in academia.
Well, it's why I really respected my dad as well, because he just didn't give a shit about being a professor. All he wanted to do was research. And he was just like, undergraduates are a waste of university money. And he just loved researching. And I remember the one thing that I've really taken to heart that my dad explained to me was one day he was really upset because they weren't getting the funding for experiments. So all my life growing up, dad would go to work at 8 a.m, come home for lunch, go back to work, come home for dinner, and then take me and my brother to his lab every evening because he had to kind of keep checking these experiments. And like, he used to play games with liquid nitrogen with us. Jesus, you know, it was bananas, but he was very dedicated to the experimental research that he was doing. He was working in nuclear magnetic resonance a lot, which led to MRI machines and radiology.
Is that why you light up in the dark?
Exactly. That's why you can always see where I am. I mean, honestly, 12 people in his department ended up getting cancer because they were just ignoring radioactive science. But the one thing my dad said to me was that he was trying to get funding, and he said, oh my God, they're only giving us 5 years funding. There's almost no point in doing it. And I was like, that sounds crazy. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, you've got to fund for 20 years because you're never going to find out the answers to this research in 5 years. And then I thought, so will you know the answers to your research? And he was like, probably not. And I was like, wait, what? So you're dedicating your life to researching something that you will probably never know the answer to? And he's like, absolutely.
There's an old quote, which I love, which is a mark of civilization in a man that he will plant a tree that he knows he will never stand in the shade of.
Beautiful. That's exactly it. It was an amazing mentality.
Yeah.
You know, that you're part of the course of exploration.
Was he a musician?
Not at all. Neither of my parents were musical at all. The thing was that they got me lessons. They could recognize that I was talented as a young kid. And absolutely to their credit, they, you know, got me music teachers and came and saw me performing at the Bayer Theatre, all these plays, you know. And then when I actually left college and said, guess what? I'm going to be a performing artist. They were like, no. They were like, we thought you were going to be a flute teacher, you know.
I know.
And so it was very frightening for them because they didn't even listen to music. They weren't music fans. There was no record collection in my house.
That's very odd.
I wonder
if is it genetic, do you think?
I think in my case, yes. I think in my case. Yeah, apparently my a biological father who I never met but found out who he was through Long Lost Family, the ITV show, was Irish. I knew he was Irish, but apparently a very, very good singer and a bar owner. So he would just sing for everybody. So, yeah.
Wow.
But it's always been innate. It sort of feels like, I mean, I'm sure it's the same with you with comedy and comedic timing, that you just feel like you've been born bilingual.
Yeah, it's something I can do. I know I can do it. It's interesting because I've watched you perform in very different spaces. I've seen you play in, you know, giant arenas, and I saw you do a gig in a record shop in London where there was 20 of us in the shop or something.
That was brilliant.
But you're exactly this. It's a different technique because if you're playing in a giant show, but you seem to me, and I know exactly because I know how this feels. There is a kind of an ease and a sense of purpose that comes with the walk out onto the stage. You go, now I'm going to do what I actually know. From now on, I'm going to be all right until this stops.
I mean, I feel that really comes with time. Like I wasn't like that at first.
No,
and when it's funny because
no.
when I watch myself when I'm younger, I seem cool. Like I'm not really looking at the audience that much. I'm not saying that much. I'm a total blabbermouth now. And I'm looking, and I know looking at it, I'm like, I'm shy. I'm definitely shy. I'm compensating by kind of playing it cool. And now that I'm older, I'm just an absolute, like, you know, gob. And I'm talking to the crowd like I talk to you.